Hello Shas'os, welcome to another one. On Jay here. And we are going to be going through 10th and the Tau Index. We now have everything. Basically everything, as we are still yet to see what the GT mission pack is going to look like. There are some that have advanced copies of it, but unfortunately I'm not one of those people. Once I get access to it like all the other schmucks, then we will start going through that. But for today, we're going to go through datasheet by datasheet, rule by rule, the entire Tau Index, and let you know all of the things that I, as a highly ranked competitive player, think are good and bad, and give you guys a little bit of a leg up into the start of 10th. Let's get started. Alright, so everything I'm going to be talking about today is going to be from a purely competitive standpoint. This is you min-maxing the absolute shit out of your list to make it as good as you possibly can to take it into any environment and get some results. If there's anything that you like, please don't let me say that something that's not good or is good or whatever else, ruffle your feathers or make you feel like you liking something is a problem. This is just me looking at it from a sweaty, competitive nerd perspective. If you like something, if you're playing friendly games, or even if you just want to do your own thing, don't let me or anybody else tell you not to play the models that you like. The purpose of this video is for the people that are wanting that 1% keying in for power level. So make sure you have fun with your models and know really what this video is about going into it. All right, Chessos, so let's do this. All right, so we have the army rule. Now, I'm not going to be going through everything word for word. I'm going to give you sort of a broad view or anything that's really, really relevant. Also, just as a side note, I got to zoom in on this dude because this always gets me. He always looks like he's doing some power thrusts. Like the other two dudes are just out here, conducting warfare. This guy's firing his guns, looking at the camera, like thrusting his pelvis forward. I don't know. I always found it funny. Anyway, on to the serious stuff. So for the greater good, as an ability is fantastic. If for the second rule of, your guided unit worsening the ballistic skill if you split your fire. So what this means is whenever you have a guided unit, you are pumping all of your shots into whatever it is that you're pointing at. There may be hedge case rules where you don't do that, but I severely doubt it. This rule actually, after having a chat with some of my friends from the competitive scene in Australia, I actually think this is a lot better than people are giving it credit for, particularly with the unkillable nature of Necrons, and I believe that they are probably going to hold a place in the meta as their rules are looking quite good. We'll see how it shakes out when we actually have tournament data. But basically, this one is our new Marker Lights. It improves your ballistic skill. Now, bear in mind, that is not to be confused with your plus or minus to hit modifier. Ballistic skill modifiers sit outside of that, so there are things that can get +2 functionally. Like, for example, a Hammerhead being guided and then staying still, so the heavy rule gives them +1 to hit. That would take them from a 4+ to hit to a 2-up, because there are 3 ballistic skill with a +1 to hit. And then also having ignore cover is what makes us benefit from the marker light keyword. And you'll notice when we're going through it, there are a few units which do have the marker light keyword or have the ability to get it with marker drones. Now, if you're on Factions Tau Empire, you can use K-Unit Detachment. Cool. What this does is force us into the latter stages of the game, as you'd remember from 9th. Though, I will say this rule is, I would say, a lot better, if for the reason that it turns on turn 3 and is as powerful through 3, 4, 5 as it is turn 3. There's no more turn 5. You've got more hits coming through when you don't really need it because turn 5 everything's done, and at that point that's just basically a formality to see how many points you can score. So this sustain hits 1, sustain hits 2. This is exploding 6s, and this is paired with the greater good rule is fantastic, because where before, when your marker drones or your marker light sources were dead, there was no other way to get this. For the greater good, any Tau Empire unit can give it to another. There are some that are better than others, and we'll see that in the data sheets, but these two paired together is actually quite powerful. I'm not a fan that we only get this from turn 3 onwards, but it's where GW's pigeonholed us at the moment, so we've got to make do with what we've got and try and do well. Now, stratagems, the big ones for me. Strike and Fade. This is going to be something which even though it's gone up by a CP, for our crisis suits and whatever else, I'm 100% going to use this, because the change to it
unit from your army that can fly, which is a battle suit that can fly, which is basically all of them, except for broadsides. If it's not within engagement range of any enemy units, it can make a normal move. Now, as you'll see in the data sheets, that is infinitely better than what we had before, which was a 6-inch move. This one gives us a normal move, so even though terrain rules have changed where fly and jetpack don't allow you to ignore vertical distance when moving through a wall or whatever, you do have to measure up and over if you're going up and over or around a building. But with a cold star leading a crisis unit, as you'll see when I review it, they have doubled the distance of the strike and fade. So this one is fantastic. And coordinate to engage might be another one that I'm spending a bit of CP on. And the reason being that I can pick a unit that's observing for somebody else and have them be treated as a guided unit, which is fantastic. So you get 2 units for the price of 1 CP. They get +1 ballistic skill and ignore cover if they've got the marker-like keyword. So the others, I think, are situational, though photon grenades could be good with the breaches that I am definitely going to run, but I'm not going to make any judgments till I get some games in. So big ones to look for: strike and fade and coordinate to engage. The other ones, learn them, but I mean, point blank ambush with -1 AP, usually think that would be good, but it has a restriction of not during the first or second battle round, because why, GW? Why is this restriction necessary? When you have to be within 9 inches. It is overly punishing to spend a CP on. It might be fine when the rubber starts hitting the road a little bit later on. You really need something to die, but I wouldn't look at this as an all-the-time stratagem. And it's something that I've spoken about in other videos. Planning your CP and planning your turn is one of the things that separates a mid or low tier 40k player to some of the best players you'll find across your tournament circuits, is knowing where they're putting their resources, knowing where they're putting their CP, knowing what they're doing. This isn't something you can really plan for. This is something which is reactionary and, requires you to be able to do a little bit of mental mathematics. So then moving on to our enhancements, Exemplar of the Kalyun is the clear standout, being able to get the Kalyun detachment rule from the second battle round onwards, which means Death Star crisis units are definitely going to hurt just as much as they did before. Precision of the Patient Hunter, I don't know that we take this. Maybe we do. It depends if you're taking multiple commanders, because there's not a lot of other models that'll really benefit enough from this to make it worthwhile. I also think that the inclusion of this is why our commanders went to Ballistic Skill 3, among reasons of balancing them, because the data sheets have always been exceptionally good, though it does sting having them go to 3-up just so that we can have them guided on and waste that sort of a resource and whatever else. But yeah, through Unity Devastation can be good if you've got a model that you're really wanting to sort of throw away with that, because obviously this needs to be on a leader. I don't think we have any lone operative leaders that can take this that aren't named characters. So really you're looking at like Cadre Fireblades, and there is a combo that you could have within there where you've got a Cadre Fireblade that's an observer unit. You have your breaches take a marker drone, so they've got the marker like keyword, which means that they can be an observer. You can spend 1 CP to guide them on, and then you've got 2 units going in there, and the unit that the breaches were guiding on, let's say a crisis unit, get ignore cover and they get lethal hits, which could be okay. We'll see. Pure Tide Engram Neurochip, I think, doesn't offer enough compared to a lot of the other enhancements, and this is the most expensive by far when we look at our Munitorium Field Manual, which we'll go into towards the end of this video. This one is sitting at the most expensive, but doesn't even zero out the cost of it, where I've seen so many other factions, when you get to duplicate a stratagem, they get to do it for 0 CP. And I don't know why we can't do the same. I think it's because our Strike and Fade is 2 CP, but, one of the more practical applications, if you're not going to use it for Strike and Fade, which you definitely would if you could, is Overwatch, where you can shoot people at the end of their movement phase when they deep strike or when they charge you. So, enhancements, they're good. I think Exemplar of the Kalyun through Unity Devastation are the ones you're going to see the most, but we'll see how the meta shakes out. Drones, no, really the only one to talk about here is the shield drone and the marker drone. Guardian drone -1 to wound isn't bad, but I'm not expecting breaches to stick around anyway, so I don't think this gives enough of a force multiplier for us to consider that over some of their other options. But the marker drone, as I said, there's a combo where you can give something the marker-like keyword, can act as an observer unit for any other unit, even if it advances this turn. Now, where that is relevant, and I'll go through this now so I don't have to on any other sheets, have a look at all of the ranged weapons for everything. Do you notice something distinctly missing? We lost assault on everything. Everything. The only thing that has it at the moment, I believe, is our Darkstrider has it, and I think our breaches have it, as well as the gun drones on the Devilfish. So, yeah, Pulse Blaster Assault. So, why this is relevant and what the marker drone, really offers now that they've... And this kind of feels like GW creating a problem and then selling us the solution where, commanders go to 3+, but you can guide them on when they're leading a unit. And whatever. So you can give them the marker-like keyword, and basically this means normally when you advance without assault weapons, you are not eligible to shoot, which means you cannot guide using the for the greater good rule. However, marker-like keyword means that you are allowed to do that, which means that even if they can't shoot themselves, they are able to guide you on. And not only that, the marker-like keyword opens up the ignore cover, as well as that sort of pairing with the stratagem, where if they're shooting as well, let's say a breach team advances and is hitting someone, they've got the marker-like keyword, so they also guided and get to ignore cover. So that's not too bad. Shield drone +1 to the wounds characteristic. Now, don't get me wrong. Maybe I should have said this at the start of the video. Everybody needs to swallow their lumps with the nerfs that we've copped. Having said that, don't look at these in a vacuum. Everybody cop nerfs. And there are some very, very strong interactions, but what we were in 9th is functionally gone. And we need to square with that and look at what we're going to do for the future. And the future can be quite bright. So please don't let that sound like I'm being cold or heartless with everything. The first night, me and my Discord were commiserating over a lot of the changes that we weren't happy with, but for the purposes of moving forward, this is still going to be a great faction, and hopefully by the end of this video, I actually sort of key you into some of the things that will make us do quite well within the meta, pending, other balance stuff and whatever else. Though GW showed us throughout 9th that they are good at focusing on balance and fixing things at a relatively good pace. I know that everybody has complaints with that stuff, but, 9th was actually better handled than almost any other edition from what I've heard from the old boys and the fossils that have played other ones. So the reason I bring that up is that shield drone, yes, having a drone flying around with 2 wounds and invulnerable save is quite nice, but when we get into it, seeing that all war gear and drones cost nothing, Chrysler suits are now 6 wounds, functionally. Broadsides are now 10 wounds. It's a good time to be alive. Which, isn't as good as a separate unit, but let's look at it for what it is. Yeah. So, first data sheet. Shas'o Sun. I was underwhelmed with her when I first looked at the data sheet, but after then going and doing what I normally do, and the reason why my index review hasn't come out as fast as some other people is that I always like to take my time to digest information, have a think, review other data. I went through plenty of other data sheets from other armies, and Commander Shas'o Sun, after doing that, actually started to stand out to me. Now, one of the things is she's the only person with a melter fusion that is at 18 inches. Now, all of our guns cop nerfs. All of our guns lost, I won't say all, but most lost about 6 inches. She lost 6 inches, but her high energy fusion blasters were at 24 before anyway. So now she actually has what we used to have. The strength of it got bumped up to 10, which is quite nice. So she is hitting decently well. I'm glad that they removed the shitty profile that nobody ever took. Now, if you're looking at this, she's got 1 attack here, but have a look at what she's equipped with. She's equipped with 2 of them. Light missile pod, pulse pistol, all that sort of stuff. So, high energy fusion blaster, hitting on 2, strength 10, AP4, D6. She kept a lot of the previous profile. Her missile pod is at AP0, which is fine. It used to be AP1, but whatever. Her big thing, Infiltrator, Lone Operative, Stealth, so she's -1 to hit, she can forward deploy, and she can't be shot outside of 12, which is amazing. And you're going to hear this a lot when I'm talking about her index, but Lone Operative is something we want to plug into the army as much as we can, for the reason that people can't just delete off resources that we want to keep around for a little bit. Now, she's eligible to shoot in a turn in which she fell back, but you don't really want her getting charged in the first place. The big one, while a friendly Tau Empire unit within 6 inches of this model, each time a model in that unit makes a ranged attack, reroll a hit roll of 1. There are not a lot of rerolls in this game anymore. I know that people can point to specific units from other armies that give whatever. There actually aren't. Captain Auras are gone. There's not a lot of things that give a reroll, hit roll 1 aura, and more than that, Tau Empire. Not core, not battle suit, not battle line, not whatever else. Tau Empire. You can drop a Razor Shark Strike Fighter in next to her and it will get reroll 1s to hit. If you've got, let's say, for example, if you're going for a combo, and I don't recommend this, but, you know, a Hammerhead that doesn't move, that's sitting next to her, that's being guided, is hitting on 2s. It can reroll 1s to hit, which means that on its data sheet, the reroll 1 to wound or hit, you're using it for the wound, and it's, you know, ignoring cover and whatever else. So she is very, very good to have sitting in the middle of whatever Death Star you're setting up and following them around, not being able to be shot, being able to do a thing, and actually being able to punch back if she needs to, putting some extra fire down range to help out. She's also got -1 to wound whenever she's doing a thing. And she's also got, whenever you use a stratagem within 6 inches of the bearer, each time a unit is a target of a stratagem, roll 1d6 on a 5-up, you gain 1 CP. Now, this, obviously, you're not rolling 2 dice if you were to say strike and fade, because it's not for every CP you spend, it's whenever you're targeted by a stratagem. But having said that, a 5-up isn't terrible to get CP back. You might only get it once per game, but at least that's 1 more CP than you were having before. So Shadow Sun really, really is fantastic. She's epic hero, so you can only take 1. You can't give her enhancements, but honestly, she doesn't need it. She is quite good, quite good. What perplexes me, though, is that she's T4. Previously, all of our suits were T5. It's an odd one, but I guess they're playing around the fact that you don't want her to get shot. But anyway, here's where we are. Farsight, no, gonna be honest, a little disappointed with this guy. New model, new lore, and whatever else. They've got books about him, they got everything else, and they didn't give us anything at the end of 9th. And I was really, really hoping that, you know, that device in his arm would be the, you know, the Pure Tide Engram Neurochip, or it would be the Talisman of Arthas Moloch, or whatever else. But, I mean, his Plasma Rifle's still fine. It lost a pip of AP. It didn't go up in strength, which kind of sucks. As far as melee, he's not terrible. Honestly, he's not terrible. He's also Vehicle Walker, which you'll notice this for all of our battle suits. So he can, because he's got a really good melee weapon, he can tank shock on the way in. I know I'm probably not advising anybody of something they don't already know. It's already made the rounds, but I think it bears saying because he can do some mortal wound output. Deep Strike and Leader, so he can lead a unit of Crisis battlesuits. While he's leading a unit, whenever they're within 9 inches, they get +1 to wound, which isn't terrible. You can't do it out of Deep Strike, so you really have to put yourself within range of him. Aggressive Offensive, once per battle, when he's selected to fight, if he does until the end of the phase, each time you make an attack, full rerolls to hit and wound, which is really fantastic when you need to just delete something that needs to go. All in all, he is good, but I feel like he's the ghost keel of last thing, because when we get to the other commanders and looking at Shadow Sun and whatever, for the points you have to pay for him, he just gets outshone a little bit, unfortunately. And I'll move on so you guys can see why. Again, epic hero, you can only take 1 of him, that's fine. I don't think anybody expected anything different. Crisis Commander, not my favorite, for the reason that he does give a reroll hit roll aura, but that's while he's leading a unit. Now, that can be okay if you're going out somewhere else, but I have better combos in mind than doing this and having him lead one of the Crisis Suit teams, because you can't have more than 1 leader unless there's like an express rule that tells you that you can. Yep, so I just looked it up in the core rules, so I wasn't talking shit. Yes, you can only have 1 leader. There may be things, I think Astra Militarum has things that you can attach, like multiple or whatever. I'd have to look that up as well. But to have him occupying a leader spot is, yeah. With any of the commanders, I'm going to say it right now, you're only going to want Cyclics or Plasmas. There can be an argument for Flamers for weight of dice, but at 12 inches, D6 shots, we lost the +2. I strictly think that a cyclic ion blast, like it's middle of the road of where you would get here, so it's the perfect middle number. Well, maybe just on the lower end, but you know, hitting on 3, strength 8, AP2, damage 2, but that's assuming you don't want to overcharge. And you just go this, like, in the current game, so far as I've seen, strength 8, AP1, damage 1 is not terrible when you're looking at infantry. Now, there's been a couple of questions about how you do the readout of this. Commanders can still take 4 weapons. However, crisis suits still can only take 3 weapons and a support system. So with the commanders, I'm going to say this right now, everything's free, so there's no reason why you should deviate from this. Commanders should at all times be taking 4 weapons. There is never a reason to give them a support system. In my opinion, you want them for the output. Even though they're not hitting on 2s anymore, hitting on 3s, but if they're guided with a crisis unit, which you'll probably want to do, they are back to 2s and ignoring cover. You want as much firepower as these guys can possibly provide. Burst Cannon is the base thing that he's equipped with, can be replaced with any of these things. He can be equipped to up to 2 of the following drones. I highly recommend doing 2 shield drones. Then he's 7 wounds. Boom, done. Then he can be equipped with up to 3 of the following and can take duplicates of any of these weapons. Again, don't go for the support systems. It's not worth it. It's really, really not worth it. Commander and Enforcer. Now, he is my number 2 pick. Cold Star being the first. And the reason for him, everything else is the same, so I'm not going to go through everything else. He has 1 extra wound. He saves on a 2-up, which is nice. He can go to 8 wounds with 2 shield drones. Plus, while he's leading a unit, each time a range attack targets a unit, worsen the AP of that attack by 1. The interaction that this has, which I haven't seen anybody else talking about, is that with AP0 weapons, a model with a saving throw of 3+ or better cannot have the save improved further from cover if you're getting hit with AP0 weapons. So what this means is that you are functionally ignoring AP1 and AP0 weapons, and you, if you've got cover, are ignoring AP2 weapons. You're just saving on your 3+, which can be nice. Again, I think that quad cyclic is absolutely the way to go with these guys. Even in 9th, when I was running my Borkhan commanders, triple cyclic was putting in as much work as it possibly could. And I don't think anything changes with this guy. Now, you can also overcharge him more if this is the guy who's carrying your Precision of the Hunter enhancement. But anyway, Enforcer, great choice, but I think that this guy is a clear standout. Now, the reason for that, again, most of the profile is the same except for his 12-inch move. He's on a 3-up save, 6 wounds. Again, he can go to 8 with 2 shield drones. It's this line of text here. While this model is leading a unit, models in that unit have a move characteristic of 12 inches, and ranged weapons equipped by models in that unit have the assault ability. Why is that huge? Well, I was mentioning before with For the Greater Good, we lost assault on all of our guns. This means that my crisis suits, which I will in advance skip down to them. Okay, we're at our crisis suits, and this is why I think it's so good. Base move 10. Every time they advance, do not make an advance roll, go 6. Now, that is enormous because then what you have is a Cold Star putting them at a 12-inch base move, which means that if we strike and fade them, they're going 12 inches at base, and they're auto-advancing 18, which previously the Cold Star had to give a command phase buff to be able to do. Now he operates with the unit when they do that. So, and actually, interestingly, the leader inherits any of the abilities that the unit he joins has. He will also auto-advance 18. So, let me go back up to our Cold Star, our beautiful, wonderful boy. That means that they can move, as advance, they're eligible to shoot. You can take a support system on the crisis suits to ignore any or all hit modifiers, so you don't take any downside whatsoever. It's this one, weapon support system. You don't take any downside for doing it. They are eligible to, for the greater good, somebody if they want to. And if you have one of them take a marker drone instead of a shield drone, I don't think you will, but if you want to, they can be the guiding unit, and then because they've got the marker keyword and they're eligible to shoot, they can then also shoot themselves being guided and ignoring cover. There's a lot of things that we can do here, and this is how I want everybody watching this video to start examining this index. We are greater than the sum of our parts, to quote Richard Siegler. The army that you are going to put together, each of the parts may look appealing, but not ridiculous. But when you start piecing all the things together, there is so much that we can do. And that's why I've got such a positive attitude. Not because of my YouTube channel, not because I feel like I have to, because I, make money or get support or whatever else. I genuinely think that if you want to be a champion, this is how you have to think when you get rules that maybe you weren't too keen on at first. Anyway, I won't preach anymore. He has all the other same things. This guy is absolute money. If I'm running one crisis unit, I'm taking one of him. If I'm taking a second crisis unit, I am sorely tempted to take a second one. Enforcer, maybe if I want a unit that just needs to exist in the open for as long as I want, but auto advance 18 and still be able to shoot is incredible. Like, speed wins games. And cold stars, they give you speed. Now, one thing that I will say, he is also the only guy that has the high output burst cannon intact. I guess there could be an argument to keep the high output burst cannon. It's always been a staple, and I'm actually kind of glad that they kept it in. I do hate that it lost the -1 AP. But strength 5, not terrible, though I still think maybe the cyclic wins out just for the fact that it's got AP and you can go up to damage 2. But that will be something that I will play games and I will actually work out for myself if I like it, if I need it, and if that volume is more important to me. So, and I would encourage all of you to do the same. Make sure that if you're going to form an opinion on something, you at least put some rubber to the road and make sure that you know. Now, Cartridge Fireblade, huge glow up. I'm not going to go through any of his stats. He's whatever. When he pops out of a Devilfish with a Breacher unit, he's going to die. However, while he's leading a unit, add 1 to the attack's characteristic of ranged weapons equipped by models in that unit. That means normally a 20-shot unit is doing 30 shots. He is absolutely fantastic. I'll go through the points later, but he is 50 points. This guy, if you've got the points to plug in for each of your Breacher teams, he is money. He is absolutely fantastic. His gun as well doesn't suck. It's damage 2, no AP, but if you make a critical wound, you get AP of 3, which will happen every now and again with a single shotgun. Crude Shaper, fine. From a competitive standpoint, I don't think it has a lot of purpose, especially because it has the Tau Empire keyword, but I don't know that there's a ton of things that we really want to use for him to enhance, given that the things that he leads can't actually guide other units. So I went and double-checked. He cannot give it. If you notice, on my other guys, they have faction for the greater good. Now, this is a little confusing because the greater good rule says if you a Tau Empire unit that's eligible to shoot. Now, I'll have to double check that, but because they've created this faction keyword, that is what I'm assuming means that they cannot do it. So the Crude Shaper, honestly, he's kind of meh. Especially because my Crude Boys and my Crude Hounds did not get the glow up in this index that we were hoping for. Ethereals, I was severely underwhelmed with these guys until I had some time to actually think about it. When they're leading a unit, which can be a breacher or a strike team, they get a Feel No Pain 5+ ability. I don't know if you'll actually have them leading. Ethereals are incredibly easy to hide behind walls or whatever else and just have them kind of exist on their own. The big thing, coordinated leadership in your command phase. Roll 1d6 on a 4+, you gain 1 CP. That's really nice. Guess what happens if you have multiple Ethereals in your army? This is not exclusive. This doesn't specify that it can only be done once or whatever else. So if I include 3 Ethereals, I roll 3 dice and on a 4-up I get a CP, which is very likely to happen. Ethereals, they exist. They've got an OC of 1, so they can sit on objectives at the back or whatever else. They don't really offer much else. They did get an invulnerable save, which I guess is okay, but at 3 wounds in T3, if anything gets on them, they're kind of dying very quickly. Yeah, I would have, I think, preferred to see the Ethereals get the lone operative ability, purely just for the fact that the Ethereals usually don't lead wartime units, aside from On-Shi. But, it is what it is. It's a good ability. They're not particularly expensive, which is great, so include them if you've got the points. Now, on VAR, I looked at him initially and hated him. Now, I will say 100% it was Art of War and Richard Siegler that turned me around on this one. Lone operative, cannot be shot outside of 12, and once per battle for a full phase, he's got a 2-up invulnerable save. And I loved where Sieg's brain went with this, because it really just does show how creative a good player's brain can be, where he just goes, I'm going to throw him in the center of the board. He's going to sit on the objective with his 2 ethereal guards and his, himself with a 2-up invulnerable save, -1 to hit, -1 to wound. The Supreme Loyalty thing, I don't think you actually care about. He just sits there and is so annoying because they've got to get through 9 wounds at -1 to hit, -1 to wound with a 2-up invulnerable save. That's actually kind of hard to do. And they can actually punch back. Like this is hilarious. The close combat weapon. Weapon skill 6, strength 2, damage 1 with 1 attack. Like that is never going to do anything. And I think this will be a moment where if I'm running him, and I did this with some of my other units, like I had an ethereal take wounds off of, I think it was Be'lakor. And I celebrated like an absolute animal. I think I'll do the same thing if he does it. The Supreme, so it's 6 attacks, hitting on 3, strength 5, damage 1. That's got enough that if somebody undercommits onto an objective that he's standing on, maybe you'll be able to slap some people back. But you're not counting on it for that. He is just annoying. He is a distraction carnifex. He is a thorn in your opponent's side that he doesn't want to have to deal with, but you kind of make him deal with it. Onvar, in my opinion, is money, and I am going to be grabbing one for myself, as he's been particularly hard to get, but yeah, I'm going to make sure that I have him in, at least for some of my test lists. Anshi is fine. From a competitive standpoint, I don't know that we actually spend the points to put him in. He's not scary enough to put, like, he doesn't have lone operative. Putting him in breacher teams and crew carnivores and strikes. Crew carnivores don't live long enough to get anywhere that they're getting into melee, and if they do, your opponent's kind of fucked up or they're making like a tactical play. And without lone operative, he can't get to the point where he can make a charge. So, and as a counter charge threat, he's not good enough, and he's not attached to a unit that can live long enough to protect him to really get this out. So I wouldn't look too closely at Anshi. I wouldn't mind getting him and running him in a friendly game just to say that I've done it. But while I love this character from a lore standpoint and everything else, unfortunately, this just isn't enough. Okay, so Darkstrider. Nothing else from him stands out except for that he can attach to Pathfinders. He's got Infiltrator, Leader, and Scout 7, same as the Pathfinders have with the exception of Leader. He's got for the greater good. Whenever this model's leading a unit, each time that unit makes a range attack, add 1 to the wound roll. I mean, really, whatever. We don't care about wounding with Pathfinders anymore because they took rail rifles to ballistic skill 5. I'm never going to take them. Jammer array. This is the big thing. This was the EM scrambler that we had in 9th. Enemy units are set up on the battlefield, cannot be set up within 12. This guy can be really, really, really annoying for certain armies. I'm looking at you, Grey Knights. I'm looking at you, GSC. There are a ton of ways that he could be used to a very, very obnoxious end. And I'm actually kind of interested to get him on the table because I also love his brand new model. Long Strike, I thought was really good when I was reading this, but every time I run the Math Hammer on the railgun without ignoring invulns, it is really mid. The accelerated burst cannons got absolutely destroyed. We got half shots with -1 AP taken from them. The railgun, devastating wounds is not enough. Heavy is not enough. Strength 20 AP 5 D6 plus 6 is great, but as soon as somebody rolls a 4-up invulnerable save, what does that matter? The railgun needed to keep the ignore invulns. I know that non-Tau players don't like to hear that, and it feels bad for you, but from our perspective, this platform is not good enough for us to take it not ignoring invulns, with no other point defense weapons really to speak of. The Ion Cannon GW is a joke. The Ion Cannon is a joke. Why is our Ion Cannon strength 8 and strength 7? GW, what are you doing? There is no anti-tank in this book. Sort your shit out. With the exception of Seeker missiles. Them not costing anything. I am in love with having Seeker missiles everywhere. But anyway, his stuff just is not good enough. Like lethal hits, auto wounds, yay. They're still going to save. Reroll 1 hit or reroll 1 wound. That is really nice. And Elliot, if you listen to my dude, we fucking did it. You don't have to worry about, rolling a 1 to wound anymore because, we did it. However, I don't think you're going to be taking these guys. I want to practice a 4 Hammerhead list just to see what's up, but honestly, I'm not feeling it. I'm really not feeling it. Especially because this also had a damage nerf. Devastating wounds isn't enough to make up for the fact that we used to do 3 mortal wounds on a successful wound roll, as well as whatever damage we did. So It's not enough. It's not enough. 3 mortal wounds is so much better than a D6 over a D3. Yeah. All right, strike teams. They're terrible. Don't take them. They're relatively cheap, so if you've got the points and you're hitting certain breakpoints, by all means, they can hold your backfield objectives for literally nothing. The cover fire, I don't think you care about. They don't live long enough to do anything. They do have a good objective control, so they'll have 20 sitting on a point. You could try and shore them up with Guardian drones. And now, bear in mind with these guys, the shield drones are significantly worse because it's the Shas'o. It is, you've got 1 of those and 9 fire warriors. That doesn't make all of them 2 wounds. That'd be kind of ridiculous and kind of fun and kind of awesome. GW, make it happen. But the Guardian drone and, say, a marker drone so that they can, guide people on to something within 30 inches could be a thing. But then if you're able to guide them on, they can see you, you can see them, your strike team is going to get shot and you're going to lose that objective. If these guys had sticky objectives on them, that would make them significantly better, but this is the world that we live in. I'm not planning on running these guys, but maybe people will find a use for them. Breaches. You are looking at an S tier unit here, Shas'os. S tier because, 1, Pulse Blaster kept a lot of its stuff. It actually, instead of being 8 inches, where it had the 2 profiles and you always wanted to be within 8, now you can do 10, which is fantastic. 2 attacks, hitting on 3s, strength 6, AP 1, damage 1. These guys will absolutely slap. Now, what's the reason I say that? When I get to the Devilfish, you will see what we're going to be able to do with it. Even though the Devilfish doesn't have its scout move anymore, I think. Wait, hang on. Even though the Devilfish doesn't have its scout move anymore, these guys don't care because the Devilfish got a rule that it can advance and people can still get out and do their thing. So, what are we looking at here? Excellent shooting profile. Chuck a Cadre Fireblade in there. You go to 30 shots for the unit. For the greater good, so if you've got a Devilfish, and I'll go through this when we're looking at that, if you keep its base guns on the gun drones on the side, they have assault. So, that unit can move up. It's still eligible to shoot, so it can actually guide the unit that gets out of it so that they're +1 ballistic skill. So you're hitting on 2s, DS8 support turret, whatever. Each time a model in this unit makes a ranged attack that targets an enemy unit within range of an objective marker, full rerolls to wound for breach and clear. That is amazing. I absolutely love that. Get maybe a marker drone so you can have 1 breacher team guide another breacher team on, spend a CP, both of them get the benefit of it. Though really we'll have to see what army compositions have that shake out. Guardian drone if you actually want them to stick around afterwards. Or you go shield drone so that you've got a Shas'o that's on 2 wounds. That can be actually kind of obnoxious to remove because you've seen what Eldar and Harlequins and stuff do with that sort of thing. These guys are an ST unit. I absolutely love that Fish of Fury is still intact. I cannot wait to plug that into a lot of lists that I run. Crew Carnivores, my boys. Notice no AP. They got a scout move, they got stealth, so they're -1 to hit. Fight phase, if they destroy an enemy unit till the end of the battle, they have a 5-up, feel no pain. They're not that great, unfortunately. Pre-game move's great. -1 to hit's great. They've still got a 6-up save, so any AP kills them, but unfortunately, I just don't think Crude are the way. And just double check my work, Crude Carnivores is 75 points a unit. It's way too expensive. I'm sorry, my Crude boys. I hope I can plug you into a unit, and for everybody out there, something that is relatively cheap, because we don't have war gear to fill in extra points, maybe 75 points will hit a certain breakpoint. And if so, I will plug units of Crude Carnivores in. At the moment, there's other things that we want to spend our points on, unfortunately. Though I'm hoping I'm wrong. Genuinely, I'm hoping I'm wrong. And that the Crude serve a purpose. Because I do really love my Crude. I love my Hounds. Let's see. Crutox Riders, dog shit. Don't use them. Absolutely no reason to. And it's really sad because I would love to run these guys. This may be one of the coolest models outside of the Greater Narlock that we used to have. Which, GW, please bring that back. That would be such a fan favorite. And it, +1 to hit if you got Crude Carnivores within range of it. On a gun like this, it's not enough. It's literally not enough. Melee weapons, I mean, you could, I guess, throw them at people, but 7-inch pre-game, 7-inch move, no advance and charge. It's probably going to die before it gets there. All right, Chrysler suits. These guys are still fantastic. They are a little bit cheaper overall. And you don't have to pay for upgrades anymore, which is fantastic. I already went through the auto advance, plug a cold star in there. They're going 12. They're advancing 18. Now, my preferred setup for these guys at the moment is either triple cyclic or triple plasma, and then having the weapon support system so they ignore any or all hit modifiers. They are super fast, super strong. I would actually maybe take one or two of them with a 4-up invulnerable save, just so they're a little bit more obnoxious. I'm taking shield drones on all of them, so they're 6 wounds apiece. And if you look at that 6 wounds with a couple of them with a 4-up invulnerable save, that can actually be rather obnoxious. There's plenty of firepower. There's plenty that they bring. They are vehicle and walkers now. They're not infantry, so you can't go through walls. You have to fly up and over or go around it. But that's become infinitely easier with just the sheer mobility that we've kept intact and being able to have a cold star with them. So Chrysler suits, still fantastic. I don't know if we're just going 3 units of them or 3 units of 6. Because if anybody didn't realize, you have to take them in units of 3 or 6 now. You can't, well, you can do less than that, but you still pay full points as if you had all of the models. So, yeah, you probably don't want to do that. Chrysler suits are still fantastic. I will probably have almost every list with at least 1 unit of them, though I am looking at options to run Chrysalis as well. Though, yeah, we'll see how that shakes out. Stealth suits got a really nice glow up. They are actually a fantastic unit. Why, you say? Infiltrator and stealth, so -1 to hit and can forward deploy. They always had that before. 2 wounds a pop, which isn't terrible. But one of the big things that they've got is forward observers. Each time this unit is an observer unit until the end of the phase, each time a ranged attack is made by a model in their guided unit that targets their spotted unit, re-roll a wound roll of 1. So if you've got Shadow Sun nearby, re-roll hit rolls of 1. If you've got these guys guiding them on, you've got reroll wound rolls of 1. They also have a homing beacon. Now, this isn't turn 1, unfortunately, but you could rapid ingress for 0 CP. Must be set up within 3 inches of the bearer's unit and not within 9 inches of any enemy units. This is actually still a fantastic thing that you can take. The reason being is that homing beacon reducing your CP. We may be very CP hungry, especially if you've got crisis suits. You're going to be spending 2 CP on that. So, and it's not just the Tau specific stratagems you've got to be across, it's the basic ones as well. And actually, this is a good opportunity for me to go through that now. Okay, so here we are, and let's have a look at these. Now, that's probably too small, so let me just go in. All right, so what are the ones that we care about? Command reroll is obviously a really good one. Insane bravery, we have terrible leadership. Fire Overwatch is going to be a big one. We are going to be using this all the damn time because your opponent's movement or charge phase just after an enemy unit is set up or when an enemy unit starts or ends a normal, advance, fullback, or charge move. 1 unit from your army that's within 24 inches of that unit would be eligible to shoot if it were your shooting phase. You can shoot them as if it were your shooting phase, hitting on 6s. Fantastic. Grenades, guess who is? Breaches. Roll 6 dice for each 4-up, 1 mortal wound. Tank shock, 1 vehicle unit. All of our suits are vehicles. And this is where, and it goes off the strength of your weapon to get more. But for every 5-up, suffers 1 mortal wound. Which is excellent. Roll a number of d6s equal to the weapon strength characteristic. Really, really great. Go to ground, infantry. Get a 6-up invulnerable and have the benefit of cover. We may use that. It's a bit more situational, but whatever. Rapid ingress. Have crisis suits come down at the end of your opponent's movement phase, and then all of a sudden, if they haven't set up to be able to shoot them or charge them, they are coming out, auto-advancing 18 and going wherever the hell they want from Manta. This is going to be really, really, really good. So, stealth suits, in my opinion, are very, very good, if only for this as being observers, and they can take a marker drone, giving them the marker-like keyword, ignoring cover, being able to shoot themselves and get it, whatever. Marker drones giving the marker-like keyword actually has a really big impact so far as I've seen. And now we get to the big boy, the Ghost Kill. I've already made a video on him. By now you should know why he's good. Infiltrator's Lone Operative Stealth. I'll put a card up for the Ghost Kill video. Go and watch that. Fuck, I love being right. He is fantastic. I highly recommend the Cyclic Ion Raker just for volume of shots. Fusion Collider, 18 inches is too close. Lone Operative is 12 inches. We don't want to get to the point where somebody can easily walk in with 6 inches of movement and shoot us just for the fact that this is a slightly stronger gun. These guys are going to be controlling the board for us. They are going to be obnoxious. I love it. I'm so down for Ghost Kills. Fireside team, again, amazing. Infiltrator, lone operative, stealth. They have the marker-like keyword. When they're a guided unit, they can get full rerolls to hit, 3 shots of heavy, and we will probably plant these guys on top of buildings or whatever, so that they are super hard to get to. And they make 3 shots that can target characters with precision. Now, another thing that I don't think anybody's spoken about, get familiar with your terrain rules. If we set him up on top of a ruin, and we are right up on the top floor, he can't be shot because he's outside of 12. Have a look at the plunging fire rule, where all of a sudden his AP1 gun goes to AP2. So you've got, potentially if you guide him, ballistic skill 3+, full rerolls to hit, strength 5, AP2, damage 2. That is a character's worst fucking nightmare. These guys are great. Absolutely love that these guys got a little bit of a glow up. You won't use the actual sniper drones anymore, as they put in there. They're all a single model, so you can use it if you just love seeing your boys that you put some hard time painting and doing all that sort of stuff. But they don't count for being seen, seeing things, doing whatever. It's just this fella that's looking through there. All right, Pathfinder team. These guys are fine. Scout move. They can observe twice, which can be really good. They've got the marker-like keyword. So you could look at plugging these guys in. Unfortunately, they are just a tad expensive. Yeah, I'm torn. They can't use rail rifles anymore. You can only take one of these drones. Have a look at this. Make sure you read this very, very carefully. One model in this unit can be equipped with up to 2 of the following. So you can do these. You can do marker drone that you'd never need to. They've already got marker lights, and I don't think they're going to be advancing particularly. I mean, you could if you want to. Shield drone, you can have one model in the unit. It'll probably be the Shas'o, honestly. But the Shas'o can be equipped with one of the following. One of the following. Grav inhibitor, pulse accelerator, recon drone. Now, the one that I would probably pick would be the recon drone, just because it gives it the infiltrator's ability. And that means when you're deploying, you put these in a really obnoxious position. And I think by now, all of you should be starting to piece together what sort of an army Tau can be, where we are going to be everywhere on the map. We are going to have so many places that we can observe you from. And as long as you've got fast crisis suits, fast vehicles, fast damaging elements, they are going to be able to be guided onto their unit as well. So Pathfinders, I think it's going to become a balancing act of working out how many points we have. Obviously, it's a little harder now that we don't have a really good functional app to just sort of delete and add on as we need to. But as we start getting more resources and tools, or you start end up having 20 sheets of paper with all the different ideas that you've got, these guys, I think, can find a place. I think that they are, in terms of the greater good, and if you watch the video where I was doing our faction focus and our reveal, I think there's a reason they release these at the same time as the for the greater good rule. I think they're fine. And plugging them into an army will only help you. All right, Piranhas. Piranhas are actually amazing. I was surprised by this. 1, 2 Seeker missiles. These guys getting, and that's each model. So you could have 3 3-man units with 6 Seeker missiles each, as well as their fusion blaster. So, and these guys have the movement. They've got a 9-inch scout move, 14 inches of movement, T7, 7 wounds, and an OC of 2. So you put them up, getting really far. Piranha Fusion Blaster is Melter 4. You get them within 6 inches of a target, which is feasible, definitely feasible. And all of a sudden, you've got a Strength 9 AP4 D6 plus 4 damage shot going into them, as well as Seeker missiles. Can be really, really good. Weirdly, this is one of our best anti-tank options for kind of a one and done. But then you've also got drone harassment tactics and your movement phase, like one enemy unit within 12 of this unit. Note that it doesn't say visible, it just says within 12, unit takes a battle shock test. That is amazing. I am getting some Piranhas done up now because I want to plug these into different lists. I don't know that they'll fit every list, but at least some. Vespid are fine. They do what they did before. End of the movement phase. If it's not within engagement range, you can remove it from the battlefield, place it in strategic reserves. I would have preferred at the end of the shooting phase or the end of the turn, because their guns aren't so scary and oppressive that you need to worry about that. Though, obviously, yeah. And really, you can only have 15 of them on the field at any one time. They're not particularly defensible. They're not high wounds or anything else. They can't guide people on. They can't be guided. Vespid are fine. They are fine. If you've got some points left over, they could be an option. Oh, this one hurts my soul. This one hurts my soul to do. My poor Crude Hounds. One, they went up to 30 points. So they got 6 points, which is, 1.5 points per model. Then they went up. They've Scout 9. They've Stealth. So Scout 9 is actually quite good. That's actually an improvement over what we had before from 7 to 9. They are 12-inch move. They no longer get to reroll their advance or their charge rolls. They lost AP off their attacks. And they have an OC of 0. My Shas'os mourn with me. The greatest unit that has ever existed has an OC of 0. And I'm probably still going to include him in my list because it's really funny to me when people have to try and move around these guys and they don't want to commit to them at all. So, as much as I hate that they did them dirty and they can't hold objectives, I kind of get it. They're going for this pairing up with Crude Carnivores, and it's on theme for everything else they're doing for our army, where they want us to work together for the greater good. Ironically, these guys have to work together, but they don't get for the greater good. I'll still plug them into my list. Probably take 2 units of them because move blocking is just so obnoxious and I love it. Broadsides. I've been musing over Broadsides for a while. I still think they're good. Hear me out. Stop screaming. I still think they're good. Because we are severely lacking in anti-tank. We are severely lacking in anti-tank. Heavy rail rifle, heavy devastating wounds. This gun never ignored invulns in the past. They moved the mortal wound from on a wound roll to the actual damage roll, which, whatever. The damage roll actually got worse because it was D3 plus 3, which has a minimum damage of 4. Plus the mortal wound means a minimum damage of 5. This one has a minimum damage of 2 and a max of 7, which is the same, but strength 12, AP 4 is quite nice. Advanced armor, 4 up against mortal wounds. I've been thinking about this more and more and having mates of mine talk about the prominence of devastating wounds. I actually think for a unit that can sit on a backfield, hold objectives, or sit in cover the entire time, just raining death over and over again, particularly because we can take shield drones on them. These are 10 wounds a pop with a 2-up armor save that can get cover. 4-up feel no pain against mortals. Devastating wounds isn't as scary for us anymore. And then it can also ignore any or all hit modifiers, which is actually quite nice. Any number of models can be equipped with 2 of the following, but cannot take duplicates. And you'll also notice asterisks that you cannot take twin plasma and smart missile systems. Now, the SMS, do I think it's worth it? No. Twin SMS went down to 3 shots. It used to be 8. It used to have AP. Our indirect got absolutely obliterated from orbit. You'll never take that again. So twin plasma rifle. Twin, funnily enough, you get 1 shot. What, GW, what are you doing? Just some consistency. I'm sorry. I lost my shit. I'm sorry. So what you're going to do is probably take, honestly, I would take the weapon support system and then I would take a Seeker missile. Because Seeker missile, again, it is more anti-tank. Yes, you've only got 1 shot of it. That's fine. But ignoring any or all hit modifiers is for the entire game. You could look at battlesuit support systems, but I don't usually play in a way that gets my broadsides in combat. Plus, they're vehicles and walkers, so I can shoot out of combat and whatever. So, yeah. But I still think these are a great option. They are a little pricey at a unit of 3 being 330 points. But we are probably going to need anti-tank for the meta that's coming. We can deal with infantry perfectly. What we don't have is guns that people worry about when they're driving Land Raiders up and shit like that. Riptide, yeah, RIP. RIP Tide. Got him. So this guy why is our ion accelerator strength 8? This is supposed to be an anti-tank weapon. It is 2 strength more than the heavy burst cannon. They did him dirty. No jump, shoot, jump. Once per battle, we can give him devastating wounds. Who gives a shit? We can't give him reroll wound rolls. If you get a unit of stealth suits, you can reroll 1s, but it's not enough. It's not enough. He's a 2-up, he's a 4-up, he's got 14 wounds, he's going to stand out in the open. Yes, he's got T9 now, which, whatever. The Riptide got done real dirty, and it's more expensive than a Ghost Kill. He can be shot at, Ghost Kill can't. That, just in my mind, immediately discounts him. He needed to have a better gun. He needed to have an infinitely better gun. Anyway, moving on before I get triggered. Hammerhead, not the monster that it used to be. Like I said with Long Strike, no ignore invuln. This is fine. +1 to hit against monster or vehicle means that you don't have to worry about standing still with the railgun to get the +1 to hit. It's fine. It's fine. It's no longer... And even before, the Hammerhead wasn't being taken in bulk, even when it could ignore invulns. I don't know why they took that away. This is the one gun that should have had it. The one gun that should have had it. Anyway, that's a little... I'm getting a little fiery. I apologize. This section of the index is a little rough. This was one of the things that we were commiserating over. This one, though, not the Skyray. This one I actually think has play. Seeker Missile Rack, 3 attacks, Strength 14, AP 3, D6 +1 damage. This is also something that can handle the anti-tank roll. So, each time a target's unit can fly, you can reroll the hit roll. That is very nice. This also has the targeting array, which is attached to the Hammerhead chassis, which is reroll 1 hit or wound roll, which if you're getting full rerolls to hit is just fantastic. It's got for the greater good. I actually think that this has some play. It's more aggressively costed than the Hammerhead, but if you're really lacking for it and your meta is knights and whatever else, go for it. Skyray, I think, is a great platform. Devilfish, my boy, my fish of fury. Let's go. Now let's talk about this. Twin Pulse Carbine, Assault, Twin Linked. It comes with that at base. It's got an accelerated burst counter on the front, 2 Twin Pulse Carbines. So make sure that you're firing your 4 shots, which also number of shots nerfed. The big thing is that it can disembark after having advanced. Now, don't get anybody telling you that they can't move after they get out. Units that do so count as having made a normal move, just says they cannot count as stationary. So you cannot have Pathfinders get out and then lay some rail rifles down. Don't worry, it's the first thing I thought about doing. You can't have them then hitting on 4s and then being guided so they're hitting on 3s. It just means that they can act normally, they can move, they can do whatever. They just never count as stationary, which I think is maybe the wording that they should have used, but this is GW we're talking about. The other thing, they can take 2 Seeker missiles for free. Absolutely going to do it. My Devilfish is going to slap. Oh, one other thing. So 12 Tower Empire infantry models means you can put Carja Fireblades or Ethereals or whatever in. Cannot transport Battlesuit, Crude, or Vespid Stingwing. So, Razor's Shark. Got a little bit of a glow up. I don't think this is going to be an incredibly competitive model. Maybe if you like your aircraft, you can do it. The quad iron gun is... It's worse than what we had last edition with the Sun Shark. Speaking of the Sun Shark, this got obliterated from orbit. We are never seeing this again. Maybe in our book, it'll get made better, but GW have said loud and proud they do not like the Sun Sharks in the role that they filled. Tidewall Shield Line, use it if you like it. It's not competitive. Moves 4 inches. It's big. It's clunky. It has firing deck, but until I see somebody pilot this effectively, I will always be of the opinion this is not worth it. There are better points that you could spend. Same. Storm Surge. Okay. If he was not so aggressively costed, he would be good. And I mean, maybe he would even be good. I'm actually looking at just taking him to a mess around RTT just to see what he does. Now, what were the major changes for him? Basically, all of his weapons stayed the same. He's got good strength, so he is an anti-tank option. And I've got Reptar giving me the stink eye right now. Just, yes, I'm talking about you. Shut up. So, most of his weapons stayed the same. Let's look at his abilities, because that's the bigger thing. Now, the first thing that I want to talk about is towering. He can stand behind ruins and he can see through and be seen through. First thing off the bat. Deadly Demise D6+2. This guy's going to blow when he goes. Heavy Walker, when he normal, advance, or fall back moves, he can move over other models as if they don't exist, except Titanic, and terrain features that are 4 inches or less in height, as if they're not there. That's very important. That's very good for him. Or her. Don't let me tell you how to gender your models. Support system, each time this model makes a ranged attack, you can ignore any or all hit modifiers. That is super necessary to have. I'm so glad that they put that in at base. And then Titan Killer. Each time this model makes a ranged attack that targets a Titanic or Towering unit, they can re-roll the hit roll, which could be very, very good against Knights. Very good. And at the moment, Imperial Knights and more so Chaos Knights are looking very, very spicy. So, yeah, I don't know if the War Dogs have Titanic or Towering, which I doubt that they would, but I mean, they might have Towering. I don't know. We'll see. They didn't have any of those sorts of rules in 9, so I'd be surprised if they brought those forward. It has a Pulse Driver Cannon, can be replaced with a Pulse Blast Cannon, and the Twin Flamer can be replaced with the AFP. AFPs you are never taking. Twin Burst Cannon, sure, whatever. He comes with the Cluster Rocket System, Destroyer Missiles, Pulse Driver Cannon. Now, it's weird to me that it says Destroyer Missiles, and he has 1 shot. Odd. Anyway, this guy is good anti-tank, he's just too expensive. Way, way, way too expensive for something that will probably die relatively quickly. He's tier 11, 2 up, 4 up, but we have no other ways to mitigate him. We have no other ways to stop him from taking damage. So, yeah. Tactical drones. And we've got the Crude Fartstalker team. This one, honestly, just kind of looks like it's Crude but drinking a V. Like, don't get me wrong, they're good. They come with their own Crude Hounds, but I think they'll just be more expensive and not offer enough really to make us want to take them. And I think these have been included to sell the kit, though I don't even know if you can get this without... Oh no, they're just a kill team band, aren't they? I hope it's not one of those kits where you have to buy like this and another kill team and the rule book and all that sort of stuff. I really hate when GW does that. Start of the battle, 1 unit from your opponent's army. Each time this model makes an attack against a unit, they have lethal hits and precision. It could be okay, but the guns I'm looking at are not enough, and these as models aren't survivable enough to get to the point where you affect this. So, yeah, they're cool. Don't get me wrong. These guys are cool as shit. I really wish they had better rules, but, yeah. And Shas'os, that is everything. Let me know what you thought from this roll of the index. One thing that I am going to be doing is going through my next video. I'm actually going to give you a starter army list. Just something to have a look at. Now, one thing I will say, and this is where I always feel super conflicted. I want to give all of you as my viewers the best information that I can. However, because of my Patreon and one of the benefits my Shas'os get, they get access to all of my tournament lists whenever they want. So the lists I'll be putting out will not be hyper competitive, dialed in, the sort of list that if somebody came to me and paid for coaching, that I would have them walking away with. It will be a generalist list. It will be something which is good and that hand to heart, I know that somebody could play, but just know the list that I'll be putting out in the video will not be the cream of the crop. And I always feel conflicted about it because I want everybody to get the most out of my videos. I love the reaction that I get from almost every single person that I come in contact with. And I want to be the best thing I can be for our community and for Tau. But there is, for me, a little bit of a conflict of interest because I have to respect the benefit that these other people are getting that are supporting me and helping me do the things I'm doing. So I hope all of you understand. If you're at this point in the video, thank you so much for being here. Let me know some other things you would like to see. I'm actually really thinking of doing like I was trying to do at the end of 9th, where I was doing the But Why Though series, where I was going through each individual unit and showing people how to play it and how to use it and what the little tips and tricks are. I've given you a fair number of things throughout this video, but yeah, thank you to all my patrons who make all my videos possible. They'll be on screen now. We have YouTube membership or Patreon, depending on what your speed is. All of them are as equal as they can be in terms of pricing and what you get. All of them give you access to the Pantheon Studios Discord. So if you would like to support me, get some cool shit for yourself, and also get your name up at my GT next to all of the other promotional material, cameras and streams and whatever else, make sure that you hit that Patreon or that YouTube membership. Only has to be once from now until August. If I never want to have people feel like they have to be in for longer than they can. Whatever people can do is such a massive, massive thing for me. So if you can only do 1 month, bam, your name's in and you're in the Discord forever. So hopefully see some of you very, very soon. Hope all of you got something out of this video. And I really, really look forward to spending a bit more time talking about this. Next up, we're going to have the starter army. And we are also going to have my pick for the big winners and the big losers of our index. Thank you, Shas'os, and I'll see you in the next one.